Thank you very much, Dot. Really appreciate it. And I'd really like to thank NTGS for inviting me today to give a presentation on our new program within Geoscience Australia called Resourcing Australia's Prosperity. The other thing I will note today is that the Australian Public Service is now in caretaker mode due to the election being called. So that does constrain some of the things that I'll be able to say today. So before I start my talk, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which we meet today, and I would like to also pay my respects to elders past and present. So, as part of the Resourcing Australia's Prosperity program, we know that the global environment and resources sector is rapidly changing in response to the energy transition, including the drive to secure supply of critical minerals and also strategic materials. These drivers include world events, geopolitics, concentrated critical mineral supply chains, and also Paris commitments to net zero. This has culminated in what is being described as a once in a generational opportunity for Australia to become a renewable energy superpower. So, understanding Australia's geology and resource potential has therefore never been so crucial. So, in recognising this, the Australian government has invested $3.4 billion over the next 35 years for resourcing Australia's prosperity, an initiative to be led by Geoscience Australia. This generational investment in public geoscience is set to accelerate the discovery of critical minerals and strategic materials and other resources necessary for the transition to net zero. Resourcing Australia's prosperity, or I will refer to it from now on as the RAP initiative, will harness collective skills, data, research, and analysis to assess the national potential for a broad range of resources in Australia. These include those critical to the transition to net zero, as well as groundwater and environmental, social, and governance risk factors for resource exploration and development. Over the next 35 years, we'll develop 36 of the Australia's critical minerals and strategic materials maps, and we'll complete national coverages for key data sets over the whole of Australia. We will also complete 12 deep dive projects, which are at a finer scale within 12 different areas throughout Australia. And we'll complete detailed inventories of all Australia's groundwater systems. And we'll use offshore legacy data to support the assessment of CO2 storage and also the potential production of offshore energy. I would like to highlight that the work will work in lockstep with our geoscience partners in the surveys and also government agencies and academia across the country to achieve this ambitious endeavour. So this accelerated and expanded delivery of geoscience throughout Australia through the Resourcing Australia's Prosperity program will deliver a range of different benefits both now and into the future. This includes increased resource exploration activity and accelerated resource discovery and development, and importantly, increased economic and environmental self-determination for First Nations people through access to increased pre-competitive geoscience. Pre-competitive geoscience supporting evidence-based natural resource management decisions and also improved digital service delivery. I have been advancing my maps. Is that working? Sorry. So resourcing Australia's prosperity will provide our stakeholders new science, data and tools to support informed decision making across government, industry and community sectors. We want to ensure that the benefits and opportunities of the initiative are maximised for Australia So we've consulted across the country to gain insights and perspectives on the design and delivery of Australia's resourcing Australia's prosperity. And to this end, we've now released the details of our first tranche of work, covering the initial 10 years, and you can see this publication here with a link. We've made some great progress in advancing national data coverages, which form the foundation of our geological understanding. Here you can see a selection of some of the foundational data sets that underpin mineral exploration in Australia, including the first ever heavy minerals map of any continent in the world. When these data sets and others are combined, along with our in-house expertise, we can provide a range of decision-making tools and start to make some powerful predictions about Australia's geology. So getting into some detail now, we want to start to describe the Birrindudu Deep Dive project. The Deep Dive project really does represent a multi-commodity assessment that aim to enhance our understanding of the resource prospectivity in selected onshore regions of Australia. By collecting and interpreting more data at a finer scale, we will reduce exploration and investment risk in areas with unrealised resource potential. Deep dives will also very importantly overlap with Australia-wide geoscience data programs to maximise efficiencies throughout the RAP initiative. The deep dive project within the Birrindudu region is delineated by the orange polygon you see up on the screen. In the Northern Territory, it covers a region from Katherine in the north down to Tanami in the south. And within WA, it spans a region between Halls Creek in the north down to Lake Mackay and the community of Kirikara in the south. Very large area, approximately 900 kilometres north-south and approximately 500 kilometres east-west in its widest point and furthest north-south. The other thing to note is I did present up at this conference last year on the Northwest Northern Territory seismic data. Since then, we have released a large report on that, which does table all of the geological components and interpretation from that report, but also importantly, some of the resource potential associated with that as well. On top of that report, we've also produced reports from geochronology, geomechanics, and also fluid inclusion stratigraphy reports as well. So these reports, along with the other data that we acquired throughout the Exploring for the Future program, are going to form the foundations for the other work that we'll be undertaking within this region as part of the RAP initiative. So in October last year, 2024, a team went up to the Northern Territory Geological Survey core facility to undertake a large sampling program. The sampling program was really designed from a multi-commodity perspective, and we collected a whole range of different stratigraphy as part of that program. And also, I will note that the image down on the right-hand side of the screen there is of some graphite that we discovered as part of that sampling program. And I will discuss that a little bit later on in the talk. It was coming from the LMD H8 drill hole. So expanding on that sampling program that we undertook through the Exploring for the Future program, I wanted to really highlight the fact that it's covering a broader geographic region. We've only currently sampled within the Northern Territory as part of this program currently. But what I'd like to highlight here is the purple dots are where we sampled as part of the Exploring for the Future program. The yellow dots are now the new sampling program from the RAP initiative, which covers a much broader area. And also the white dots are where we sampled from both the Exploring for the Future program and also the RAP initiative program. So covering a much broader sequence, and we've also covered a broader sequence of the stratigraphic column, including basement units as well. And this sampling program will expand as part of the RAP initiative. So as part of that sampling, we undertook the program of cutting core, and we took 1,000 samples from 23 different drill holes. That sampling program, as I said, was multi-commodity, and you can see the range of the different analyses that we're currently undertaking. That's being undertaken as we speak, and as soon as that data is available, we will publish that data. We can also make that data available as to exactly where we've sampled as part of that program also. So another component of work that we did as part of that sampling program was geochronology sampling. Uh, this is an example on the right-hand side of the screen of the spatial distribution of the samples that we took. Uh, the geochron is going to be undertaken through the shrimp, through uranium lead dating. We'll be undertaking both detrital dating and also absolute dating on 5 interpreted TUF units that we've sampled as part of this. And as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, it covers a broad range of the stratigraphic units within the Northern Territory. And as I said, that will expand into WA also. So here's getting on to a bit more of the nitty-gritty of some of the things that we're going to undertake now. What I've displayed here is a map of the broad Birrindudu deep dive region. It covers a range of different provinces within the area. In fact, a very significant range of different provinces, and I'll go into a bit more detail on that later. But what I've noted here is the current AEM, or airborne electromagnetic data coverage over the area of the Birrindudu Deep Dive project area. As you can see, that's currently at 20-kilometre spacing, which is the way the AusAEM data has been acquired throughout Australia. So as part of the Birrindudu Deep Dive and our first major data acquisition, we are going to be looking to undertake a much broader AEM survey over the area. As you can see here, this is the current proposed flight lines for the new acquisition within the Birrindudu Deep Dive region. Um, Things to note here is that the data will now be a minimum of 10-kilometre spacing, with some areas with very close spacing, specifically over communities, and where we're looking at defining different resources within the region. I will note that this area and the proposed flight lines may actually change associated with operational constraints within the area. But this is the current plan. I think it's going to provide some incredible information on the region. So some of the things to note here is that it is covering some of the more basement or older Paleoproterozoic units of the Aileron, the Tanami, up into Halls Creek, the Nambu province, and also the Inverway metamorphics in the central part of the Birrindudu region, which are those older units. It's also covering the Mesoproterozoic to Paleoproterozoic Birrindudu basin in the central part. And also it does cover a series of Neoproterozoic basins extending from the north, the Victoria, the Wolf, the Marabba, and down into the Amadeus Basin. On top of that, we have the Cambrian Age Wiso Basin and Canning Basin, both to the east and west. And also in the central part of this zone, it'll be covering the Cambrian Age Kalkarinji suite, the volcanics as well. So overall, it's covering a very broad suite of provinces, but also it enables us to get an understanding of the resource potential within this area. So the resource potential is not only for critical minerals and strategic materials, but very importantly, it is for the understanding of groundwater systems in the area as well. So that's the latest survey that will be undertaking very soon. And once again, as those results become available, we'll be providing them to everyone. So the other thing to note here is that, as I spoke about earlier, the deep dive projects are not meant to be in isolation. They're meant to actually nest within the broader Australia-wide geoscience data sets. And this is highlighted here where we can see the AusAEM data surrounding the new survey area. So in effect, what it is, it's higher density data and understanding within regions of that Australia-wide data sets, and we'll be collecting additional data in this region also. On top of that, we see that we can integrate it in with all of these Australia-wide data sets, and these will be utilised for understanding the geology and resource potential within the areas. So, as noted previously, the graphite that was discovered as part of the sampling within LMD H8, it occurs as fine-grained graphitic metasediments in close proximity to a felsic dike. As you can see and displayed in the simplified column on the right-hand side of the screen, I know it's hard to see, but around about 145 metres, you'll see a pink line there. So that was very proximal to where that graphitic unit occurs. And as noted previously on the Leyland graphite deposit, we see that they are proximal to intrusive units and providing that additional heat source to cook up those organic rich units. I think the other really important part to note here is that for it to become a graphite, it has to originally have had to be a very, very organic rich unit. And these are within the older sequences, so these are within the Tanami age units, and then they've had to be cooked up by intrusive units. So the co-location of intrusives and very organic rich units within this area is a very good exploration target. The other thing to note here is because of this increase in the AEM data, graphite is highly conductive. It does show up in the AEM data very readily, and we should be able to get a lot better understanding of the spatial distribution of potential graphitic units within this area. So Australia-wide data and deep dives will produce resource potential maps and assessments available to Australia's explorers and land users. The three maps on the left-hand side of the page utilise a combination of geological processes to map the chance for discovery for certain types, styles of nickel, copper and rare earths. But as I mentioned earlier, we are going to do this for 36 critical minerals and strategic materials under the Resourcing Australia's Prosperity Program. The map on the top right is the Atlas of Australian Mine Waste, which contains about 1,500 mine waste locations. And this is going to be used to assist in looking at secondary prospectivity, including critical mineral byproducts, which is very important as part of our assessment of critical minerals. We recently developed a set of online tools to identify economic fairways, and the image you see second from the top right on the right hand side under CCS is a map of those economic fairways and the potential for CCS around Australia. And the last map shows the distribution of Australia's major groundwater bearing basins and geological provinces to provide a foundation to build upon under the Resourcing Australia's Prosperity Program. All of these maps will be produced as part of the program over the years as we progress. So our work under Australia's Resourcing Australia's Prosperity is augmented by other programs to unlock Australia's critical mineral potential. And as you can see from this map, that we have an enormous amount of potential throughout Australia. We've only developed about a quarter of 477 known deposits with critical mineral resource. But it's also very important to note that approximately 50% of the critical minerals list that we see are found as byproducts or co-products of major commodities that are currently being mined in Australia. Um, but there is also a significant knowledge gap in understanding what these byproducts are and how they are actually being assessed as part of the mining process. Well, not mining process, but part of the understanding of the resources in Australia. We're also undertaking some additional work with CSIRO to try to develop a better understanding of those byproducts and co-products, and that will also be something that we'll be producing through the program. So why is that not coming up? I missed a slide. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So to conclude, I'd like to say that, look, Resourcing Australia's Prosperity is a very ambitious program. It's going to be covering for a period of 35 years. It really will provide some enormous benefits for understanding the resource potential around Australia. But our goal ultimately is to empower our stakeholders across government, community and industry to make informed decisions about the sustainable development of Australian resources. And on that note, I'll thank you very much and I'll hand back over to the chair. Thank you.